How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Forever Arsenal podcast World Cup special. Premier League action is on pause. As you all know, the World Cup is here. And as you should all know, the round one of fixtures in the group stages has been completed. So we're back again to touch in on the fixtures and the results and the current circumstances around the World Cup, whether the favourites have changed, and look into our teams in the sweepstake. If you don't remember the teams we got in the sweepstake, then watch the last show and you'll know. But you'll get a reminder throughout this show as well. But first and foremost, I think we start with England. But before that, let's welcome the regulars to the show, Jordan, Lee, and James. How you guys doing? 8:30 a.m. stream today, Friday. We all good?
Morning, yes. Full of the lights of
beautiful. I compromised by half an hour, rather than 8 in the morning.
Compromised.
You know what I mean?
Oh, thank you, children. It's all down to you then. Is it like we got the extra half hour?
Really appreciate it.
He came half an hour in my direction, whereas I came 11 and a half hours his direction.
Oh, right.
We'll get in there, James. We'll get in there.
Basically, I didn't get saying it. Just like I just got 8:30 in the morning, like, you know what I mean? So there you go.
It gets like that. It gets like that. Well, we do have to do it each and every time the round of fixtures is done. So I believe the next round of fixtures is done on Monday. So look out for the pod on Tuesday and so on after round 3, last 16, quarterfinals, semi-finals, and obviously the final coming up. I believe Sunday, was it 18th of December? But there's still a little while to go, a lot of football to be played. Let's start first and foremost with England, emphatic win. And not only an emphatic win, but the Arsenal star boy is the star of the show, man of the match. His 6th man of the match for England in 14 appearances. And, off the back of the Euros last year, he's won English team's men's player of the year. He's won the first man of the match award at the World Cup for England. He's got 2 goals. And England also dispatched them with a 6-2 win. Lee, let's start with you. Obviously, we all watched the game. How you feeling?
Yeah, listen, I think first and foremost, I've just got to praise Jordan. He made some very, very good points about the England set up and the way it went, and was proven right. I think the team that he picked, whether you liked it or not, it done the business. And then as the World Cup games progressed, I thought it was more and more impressive. I have to say, I think we dispatched them really, really well. Other teams have struggled. Let's be honest, but England made it look easy. And everybody then was saying, that Iran weren't that good and whatever. But other teams have proved that if you're organised, and we just broke them down early and played really, really well. I think that, I'm going to say it now. I think that you have to give Jordan and Mr. Southgate a little bit of credit, because he went with the players that, listen, if you go on current form, and let's be honest, if we go on current form and things like that, Mason Mount and Maguire and Sterling wouldn't have been nowhere near that England team. I thought they all contributed. Mason Mount perhaps not as much as the others, but I still thought he had a good game. Sterling looked back to his England best. I don't know what it is, why he doesn't produce that club football. Maybe it's a different environment. He's got the confidence Southgate's got in him. And I thought it was a really, really good performance. Substitutions coming on, you look at Brazil and you think, right, oh yeah, they've got fantastic players coming on, and they have, but so have we. Rashford coming on, Grealish, Foden, they're top players. And I thought, if you want to be picky, and we are on here, let's be honest, you would say about the goals conceded, because we're the same when Arsenal concede a couple of goals, when we win 3 or 4, we go, we kind of want to keep a clean sheet. Me and Jordan are very much into that. That's the only thing that we've got in common is clean sheets. We like our clean sheets. That would be the only disappointment. But I think you have a look at these games when teams not, it doesn't matter where you go in youth football, in amateur football or whatever. Like, it's always 10-1, 8-1, 8. Like 6-1 or 6-2. There's always that little lapse, and I think maybe it was more of a lapse of concentration, when you're on top so much that you just switch off a bit. But all in all, fantastic. And I've got to say, Saka. Saka and Bellingham, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. 19 years of age and 21 years of age. Wow, what a performance from Bellingham. And I think he was probably man of the match. I think, really, if I be honest, I think it's hard to pull out both. I think if you, I look at it from a midfield perspective, I thought, 19 years of age, dominating the midfield was unbelievable. But Saka, well, I thought he was unbelievable as well. And I think now, I don't know, Jordan may argue with this because we did have that conversation last time about 3 guaranteed players, and that was 2, which was Saka and Partey. But I think Saka's going to be a regular in this England team now. I do, after that performance. I can't see him being left out. And by the way, I thought of those 3 that I think are starting now, Saka, I was so impressed with Partey yesterday when I watched him, and just showed his class. Saka as well, and Saka, and I think that they're just that little bit, classy, the 3 of them. And Saka now, I think, is going to be a regular for England.
Yeah, I assume so. I expect so. To be honest, it was funny that it was a debate heading into the tournament when you see how important he was in the Euros last year and how he's kind of kicked on from there in confidence and maturity. Jordan, let's go to you next. Touching on a couple of the points you made in the previous show and how England have fared since.
Yeah, I think I've got to give credit to James. He was one that mentioned that it was looking like Saka was going to be starting for England against Iran. He did. I repeat what I said in the last pod. I don't think it would have been the biggest controversy if Foden would have started rather than Saka. But Saka's had a really good season, and I think Saka's. I'll start with Saka. I just love him. I just love Saka. I just think he is enjoying his football. I think he's a great talent that's got so much more to go. I think he really believes in what he's doing under both his managers, Arteta and Gareth Southgate. And I agree with Lee. I think it's his place now to lose. I think Foden's got to really do something insane when he comes off the bench to really even try and dislodge Bukayo Saka. I think the other players like playing with Saka as well. I'd like him to be a little bit more aggressive. If I'm being super uber picky, I think there's an aggression that I think he can increase on. But I think he was brilliant. And again, I agree with Lee. I think the toss up for man of the match, it could have been Saka. Yeah. I'm caught with Saka, but Bellingham in the middle of the park I thought was great as well. I think in the middle of the park is the hardest place to play. I think that's the most difficult position to play in my opinion, where Bellingham plays. And I thought he was brilliant. I wouldn't be, Jordan, unless I was a little bit, brought a little bit of realism to the party. It's Iran. Okay, you can only beat what's in front of you, but let's see when they're tested against real opposition. Because although Iran, I think, are ranked 20th in the world, which actually is quite high when you think of how many nations there are in the world rankings, they're not great. Having said that, I'm sure we'll get to it maybe shortly. I've got a feeling they might get something out of Wales tonight. I've got a feeling that I'm not convinced Wales win this game tonight. But just, Iran aren't world beaters, but England did their job. I thought the first half an hour or so before they got the first goal, I struggled to see where the goal was going to come from because the tempo from England I thought was quite slow. It was everything that people who don't like Southgate say about Southgate's team. It was a bit pedestrian. It was a little bit sideways. I couldn't quite see where the energy was going to come from. I thought England would win the game, but I didn't see 6 goals coming. I think once the first goal came, as we saw the floodgates open. So yeah, big up England. Really good start. And I think they'll beat America tonight. So that for them is them qualified into the next round, which I think is important. You want to go into that Wales game, in my opinion, with it being a dead rubber. Just win the game against America tonight, and that third game you can maybe rotate, rest, try a few things out. I don't know, but tonight's game is really important just to ensure that third game for England anyway. There's nothing on it.
James, a lot of English fans weary of Southgate heading into this tournament. Form wasn't great. Playing style, performances leading into the tournament. But he kicks off with a great victory and a comprehensive one. I know Jordan mentioned the performance and being a bit pedestrian at times, but a 6-2 win. Lee is right to mention the 2 goals conceded as well. because on another day, a better team, you're looking at it from a more defensive perspective, and conceding 2 isn't great at all in any fixture. Obviously, better in one you score 6 than in one you only score 1. But yeah, 6-2, James, talk to me.
Well, Lee and Jordan have started a nice chain, so I feel like I should carry it on and give you credit, Turkish. I'm not sure what I'm giving you credit for, but just it's started a nice chain. So there we go.
Waking up at 8:30 to do the pods.
I'll give you credit for that. There we go. That's nice. If you can just think of a nice point for Lee, it might be tough, but then we can bring it.
Oh, that's
circle.
fucking You're a
nice way to,
good luck with that.
Nice way to get the pod going in the morning. England really impressed me. England, France, and Spain, I think, are the standout 3 of round 1. Got to give credit to Southgate. Couldn't think of anything for Turkish. I'll give some Southgate. No, he went with Bellingham in midfield, and look, he could easily give the minutes to Phillips because he's clearly fit. If he's taken him, he could easily give it to Henderson. He could even give it to Gallagher, who's got a few more years Premier League experience or something on him, whatever he might point towards. But he's gone for the really exciting option, the most complete midfielder I think we've got in the squad, the most exciting talent behind Bukayo Saka. Well, let me put that in there. And fair play to him. I thought England were expansive. Now, I think Southgate, in fairness, showed at the Euros that actually against certain teams, he's happy to open it up a little bit and trust a back 4 and go for it. If we face Brazil or France or whatever, he might go to a back 3, but is that the worst thing in the world? I've always felt that this squad is talented enough to go punch for punch with teams, but I don't know. He's done so well in terms of getting to a semi-final and final, Southgate, that I'm sort of done forcing that argument too much. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more. It's the US tonight. That will be very interesting because I think they've got real quality actually. I like players like Aronson, Rocker. No, not Rocker. I think it Leeds players now. Adams in midfield, Weir who scored. So we'll see what threats they pose. I think there'll be ones that can maybe catch you out a little bit more if you are open or you're a little expansive or something. So we'll see. But I think a key for England will be the pace they have in players like Sterling and Saka. You look at what Mbappe did the other day. Even Spain, for all the brilliance they've got technically, Ferran Torres can run in beyond. Asensio can get in beyond. They've got players who can break the lines. Watching Argentina, they kept getting caught offside, and actually really should have been 3 or 4-0 up with the space that's in behind. They should have taken advantage of that, but actually it was a little condensed with Di Maria, Messi, Gomez. Yeah, that's kind of what. Go on, Jordan. What are you going to?
No. So I was going to wait. I was going to wait until you finish up.
Oh, sorry. Well, I thought you were going to. I thought you had a point on that, but
I was going to cut in. That's what you're thinking, like, yeah. Like I normally do.
But I think that might be a big difference. Is have you got that kind of raw pace and behind? So when those tired legs come into play, or just something, just players who can mix it up a little bit, because it has been a fairly flat round 1. Don't get me wrong, we've had some great upsets with Japan and Saudi Arabia, but I'm not on the edge of my seat with this football right now. And rather than think that it's a bad World Cup, because I don't think it is, I'm going to say it's because Arsenal have been so bloody good that I have to readjust what is kind of the normal
standards have gone up. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, why not? Why don't we credit Arsenal for why I'm not quite on the edge of my seat with the World Cup? But what Saudi Arabia and Japan did, especially, these aren't just upsets where they got a goal, maybe a penalty, and then sat back. They went 1-0 down, both Saudi Arabia and Japan, and showed real quality. Again, no scrappy goals. This is real quality to then go on and win those games and cause those upsets. So that's been really entertaining. But anyone who thought France were going to have problems with their injuries, I think that's been put to bed. France look really, really good.
Yeah, they did. Jordan, what was you going to say?
I just wanted to briefly add, just going back to England, first of all, the 2 goals conceded. That 6-2 was very reminiscent for me of the Man United 6-2 defeat to Man City this season, in terms of, yes, letting in 2 goals towards the end, against Iran isn't great. But first of all, I think the game was won, and there was a level of like, well, the game's clearly won. when you're 6-1 up, whatever it was, your level drops a little bit, and that penalty wasn't a penalty. It wasn't, for me. It's not a penalty. The one that Iran got, and conversely, you know me, Turkish. I'm not one for wanging on about penalties that weren't given. Referees. I'm not that guy. But that Harry Maguire foul. I mean, even me, I was like, wow, how the hell did that not get given? That was an absolute shocker. So, although on the face of it, 6-2 looks like they've conceded 2 cheap goals, and you can say, okay, you know, better teams may punish them even more. I think it's a slightly skewed 6-2. It wasn't a real 6-2 in my opinion, and it could have been 7 or 8. You know what I mean? If the penalty had been given and other chances were taken. So, as much as Lee says, I'm a bit of a clean sheet freak. That sounds really bad. Well,
it's not a bad thing to do.
Although I'm one for not letting in goals, I think the 2 goals let in was slightly. Anyway, I'm gonna move on from
taking your attention away. Stop wanging on about those teams.
No.
Wanging away all the time. No wonder he's got clean sheets. That's all that
or not, as the case.
I don't want to go down that route. I'll tell you that.
Well, listen, I want to ask you guys: after the first round of fixtures, first and foremost, has England's chances increased for you? Are you looking at them in a different light? James is nodding there.
Yeah.
Lee's also nodding. Jordan's shaking his head.
No, I am. I feel that watching the games as predicted. I know that you can't go too much on the first games, and I get what James is saying that the World Cup's not great, but it never really is in the old group stages. It's the same as the Champions League. Don't really get going until the knockout stage. It's a football feast, isn't it? But at the end of it, you know, it's not knockout football until the last 16, and I think then it'll change. But at this moment in time, again, you know, everybody hyping on about teams like Germany. Germany were poor. I've got to say that, you know, if England were
their
to
11
come
doesn't
up
look great either.
Say again.
Their 11 doesn't look great either.
No, it just doesn't look right. Just doesn't look right. And if England were to come up against them and lose to them, I'd be more than disappointed. What I think that England what I've seen is that the one thing that's encouraging me about England is, and I know it's only one game, is that I thought, Maguire's not going to be any good, Sterling and all that. They sort of turned up. So it'd be interesting to see how far they go with when the likes of Maguire hasn't got the minutes under his belt that other teams have. But do you know what? I say that about. Let's be honest. If you went on form, would Ronaldo be in Portugal's team? And there he is, you know, playing and contributing yesterday. So sometimes it's not about form; it's what you know you've done in international glory and past and everything like that. And that's what we've done. I honestly think that as much as England have impressed me, there's a lot of other teams. Argentina, come on, how poor was that? You know what I mean? If England done that and put in that performance, the offside things, and that was like, you know, that we would be hammering them. They were awful. I'm going to say that now. They were awful. I looked at Brazil yesterday. I'm going to let's say it. You know, their star player was from down the road. I wasn't that impressed with them yesterday, where I could say, wow, they were great. You know, I mean,
they played a good side though. All the other big nations arguably had weaker opposition, whereas Brazil, Serbia are a good side. So
that's a fair point. They were probably the better side out of all the teams. And if you was Brazil, you'd be looking at it, and if that was say England, you'd be saying that's a good start. You know what I mean? That's you know, clean sheet, 2-0 probably out there. But maybe because you're hyped up and looking forward to Brazil. I've seen some fantastic Brazil teams in my time. You always have that little bit of excitement for Brazil, but I wasn't that overly impressed with them yesterday. Like, you know, where I think, they've got players here and players there, you know. But you look at their squad and it's very, 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 very strong. So no, for me, I think England are going for it. If I would say who's the best team so far, you'd probably say England. I think, like, just nipping it over a 7-0 Spain. But you know, that's what you want to do. You want to set a marker out first game, and England have done it. And I think that They're very much it. But I've looked at a couple. I don't think I'm going to say it now. And I said it for the last few. These teams now are not as strong. The big nations are not as good and as strong as like they were a few years back and over the years. I'm sorry. Do you know the one thing that they all lack, and the one thing that Argentina lack, and I think even though, you know, slap me around the head if you don't, you know, with Spain, there's 7 goals. I still don't think they've got a proper striker. These teams look very, very blunt at the end of the final third, where England and probably Brazil have got it in abundance.
Yeah, you mentioned. Go on, Jordan.
Sorry, no. So you go. Sorry.
Well, if it's something on that subject, you might as well go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say. I mean, that's the reason why I nodded and said that I'm not anymore. I don't feel that England. I don't feel they've got a better chance now than I did before the game, because I always thought England would go deep. And Lee's point there about the nations, there's not a scary nation out there. These big footballing nations aren't the ones they were 10 years ago. Apart from Brazil, maybe France, I think England beat Germany. I think England beat Holland. I think England beat Portugal. I think England beat give me another big team. Spain. I think they beat those teams. They could also lose those teams, but for me, 10 years ago, all those nations, I would not be saying that. The only team where I think Brazil and France could, and I think England beat France. I really do. So I'm not any more confident about England's chances now than I was before the game. Do you know what I mean? I think some of the results that I've seen since the England win have just reinforced that there's no team that I think England should be like, ooh, we have to avoid them. I'm not saying those teams can't beat England, because they can. I'm just saying that England can also beat those teams. And to Lee's point as well, just briefly about or to your question about, are we feeling the World Cup yet? I'm not yet. I'm in the James camp. But to Lee's point about normally it doesn't start until the knockout phase. With the last 2 World Cups, the group phase have actually been quite good. The last 2 World Cups, the group phases have been actually quite exciting, if you remember. But I take Lee's point. Overall, normally, it doesn't really get going until you get to the knockout phase. But the last 2 World Cups, that actually hasn't been true. But
we can touch on the other teams that were mentioned in terms of starting the tournament on fire, you might say. England's already been mentioned. Spain's been mentioned. But I want to touch on France next, because there's a familiar face there getting some plaudits. He's equaled Thierry Henry's French record, Olivier Giroud. But on top of that, it's not only about him. France did kind of come back and win the game comfortably, convincing performance. Not the best opposition. But let's touch in on good old Olivier and his career, because he's made something of it. And you know, not too long ago, he was Arsenal's main man. A lot of us wanted him as the backup man. Instead, we moved him on for Oba and Laka, and we know how that story ends. But yeah, talk to me, James. France's victory and Olivier Giroud matching Thierry Henry's record.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because it feels like the record should belong to Henry purely on level of player, but that's not fair. Olivier Giroud's put the work in and has got the goals. So well done to him. Massive well done to him. And what Giroud has done, especially for France, I think, is very much play the role that he was needed to do, which is allow Mbappe, Griezmann, Dembele, whoever it might be, to play off him. And I've never questioned his work ethic. I've never questioned his desire. You know, I remember I noticed it, especially when I'd watch Arsenal live at the Emirates, you know, how much he's manhandled Giroud in games. You know, it was always, because he was so big, he'd kind of get more the other way. And, you know, he'd be forever fouled in games. And he was always up to the task. He'd always put himself in the right place. And he'd always work unbelievably hard. And I think he's actually improved as a finisher over time, because his game wasn't about explosiveness and wasn't about pace and wasn't about quick feet. Actually, I don't think hitting his 30s was ever, you know, going to begin a decline necessarily. He's only got wiser, stronger, more clinical, probably calmer. Probably doesn't feel this pressure to like make a load out of his career. He's won all these unbelievable accolades and can just enjoy his football. But I also don't want to rewrite history, and I feel like we do this sometimes, at least the Arsenal fans I interact with, and sort of say, yeah, maybe we didn't appreciate him enough, and maybe we didn't this, that, the other. I don't know how each individual appreciated Giroud in their own way, but for me personally, I always felt a good player, can score goals, can definitely contribute, but for where we wanted to be, and let's not forget, he was very much there during the top 4, but we want to kick on time. We needed more. We absolutely needed more. And it's funny because now we've got Jesus hasn't scored for 9 games. Now, if Giroud had done that, there'd be a load of discussion around it. But look at what we're getting out of Jesus when he's not scoring. Look at the ability to pull wide, take 3 players out the game, set it up for other people. Make that Wolves goal. We win that Wolves game, I believe, because of Jesus and what he does to open the pitch up and make it happen. And with Giroud, it did feel a little bit like, well, what are we getting if he's not putting it in the back of the net? At the same time, he's also one of those players who can score a goal out of nothing, because out of a set piece, he might get his head on it. So that's all I can really say on him, that I'm happy for him. And well done to him, because he's had a fantastic career and played for some great clubs and won some amazing trophies. But I don't want to rewrite history and sort of now say that he was always the right guy for us, or maybe we didn't appreciate him. He didn't hit the level we really needed at Arsenal, if I'm honest.
I think we've got generally the majority of the fan base definitely appreciated Giroud. There was just question marks over whether he can be the striker to lead us to better days. And like you mentioned about just making top 4, we wanted more than just top 4, and that's where the question marks came in about Giroud. I think we all, a lot of us at the time, thought great backup striker. We're relying heavily upon him as the main man. But if we had him as an option, a rotation, and someone else in front of him, then I think you appreciate Giroud a lot more. But generally, I don't know. I remember us appreciating him quite a bit. Jordan, you got your hand up there.
I shut up, Lee. I actually don't remember it the same way. I remember the Arsenal fan base being really disrespectful and harsh on Olivier Giroud, and not into the last year. And when he was at Chelsea, did I start hearing Arsenal fans saying, "Oh, actually, he's a really good player." I think the reason, the biggest the biggest problem I think Giroud had amongst the Arsenal fan base is that he came in after Van Persie. He came in after Van Persie, and the fan base almost expected him to be Van Persie. The last 2 years of Van Persie he was on fire. And then he left and Giroud came in. And a little bit like Arteta and Fabregas. Arteta came in after Fabregas, and the fan base, I just think, didn't realign what Arteta was, and didn't realign what Giroud was. Giroud was never going to be Robin Van Persie. He's not that talented on that level. But what Giroud did do was he was always an honest player in terms of gave 100%. And he scored some big goals for us. I always liked Olivier Giroud. I never criticized him ever. Never, ever, because I always saw him for what he was. I never thought he'd be world class. I never thought he could lead us to a Premier League title. I saw him for what he was. And the fan base, I think, shut up, Lee. The fan base, I genuinely were hard on him because they expected him to be this world-class striker that he was never going to be. I think for him to equal France's all-time top record scorer, I think is a phenomenal achievement for somebody that doesn't have a fraction of the talent that Thierry Henry did, but shows that he was honest, he was hardworking, and he put the minutes in, and he started late. He didn't come through as a youngster. I think there's a stat going around that he was in the French Division 3, like 12 years ago, or something stupid like that. He's done, as James, he's done a lot in a very, very small period of time. I've always liked him. And if we had Giroud right now in this January window, I think he would contribute to a title challenge. As James again says, he's not the guy that's going to win you a title, but we could do someone like Giroud in our team right now. And I really was gutted when he left us. And look what he's done. Europa League at Chelsea, I think a cup, an FA Cup at Chelsea, a Serie A title, and now France's all-time record goal scorer. Giroud is a brilliant player, but I don't think he was appreciated until he left Arsenal Football Club by the Arsenal fan base.
Did he get the Champions League at Chelsea? No.
Yeah.
Yes.
He did.
Oh, he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah. There you go.
This guy cleaned up.
He's cleaned up, James. He's a good player.
Lee's got his hand up. I don't know if he wants to make a point.
Know
He's taking the piss.
No, go to it, please, sir.
Bring him back to the Emirates. Let's get him that Premier League title he's missing, and then and then build him a statue.
For 6 months, James. I wonder if he could do a job for us. I really do.
He would. He would.
I'm not even joking. Yeah.
Can I have my say on Giroud now, please?
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Turkish? What do you think?
Lee's quietly had his hand up there. Let's go to Lee.
Mismanaged from day one, right? And I'll tell you why he was mismanaged. You know what I mean? Never really played to his strengths. Never got a wide player in that could cross the ball. I'll tell you what, it'd be lovely at Arsenal now. Be absolutely wonderful with what we've got now when we cross the ball in and things like that. Never ever done it. The times he used to make his run and we'd get to the byline and cut it back and things like that. Never played to his strengths. I think his hold-up play was fantastic. Never appreciated because of that. Did miss chances. That's what frustrated a lot of people. But there wasn't no one around that would score goals if it wasn't for him. So there was a lot of pressure on him. Like, you know, if he missed a chance now, everybody go, "Oh, don't man, we'll create more. We won't create a lot more chances." And there was also the biggest problem at one stage. He was the only forward we had for about a year. So I remember if he got injured or something, we was in trouble. So he was under immense pressure to deliver week in, week out. And I think it was unfair on him if I look back on it, and an unfair timing because I don't think he was managed right. If he was, you know, if he was to come to Arsenal now at 36, you know, you talk about Ronaldo and everything. Oh, we'll get Ronaldo. I would be more and more happy if Giroud comes back to us at this age now. Like. And the fact of the matter is, I never wanted Giroud to leave, really. But he had to leave for us to get Aubameyang. But if we'd have got Aubameyang and kept Giroud, I'll tell you what, Arsenal could have been because the pressure would have been off. We could have gone to a plan B a lot better, and also played Giroud and Aubameyang in the same team, and it would have been a lot better. His hold-up play, and I'll tell you this now, he brings in the players. I know he didn't score in the World Cup when they won it, but he contributed by bringing in players like Mbappe and all that. Like, do you imagine what he would do now with the likes of Martinelli, Jesus, and everything like that? And just think about it, like if he was in the team now, I don't think Jesus would be going through a nine game unbeaten, non-scoring record, because I think it'd be bulldozering people through for him and everything like that. I just think he was mismanaged by us. I remember watching a game once, and with Arsene Wenger, he was on, and we didn't put one cross. They took Giroud off, and they started crossing the ball in. And I'm sitting on. He must have been sitting on the bench going, "I don't believe what I'm seeing here," because I was watching in the stands and going, "I can't believe it." The one thing that I would say was a criticism of him, he wasn't lethal enough in front of goal at times. I remember the game against Swansea when we was desperate for him, missed an open goal. But when I look back on it, all forwards miss goals, you know. And I just think that if he was to come into this environment now, I think he'd thrive. I really do. I think he was just mismanaged. It was just wrong timing as well.
He did have hot and cold moments, though. Like, you are right. All strikers' chances, absolutely. I remember some of his bad patches being bad, though.
And maybe that's
just that might be just, you know, when you reflect on something that happened kind of 8 to 10 years ago, but also you're thinking of all these games. Maybe I'm not remembering it quite right, but
Monaco.
I just, for some reason, what's that?
Monaco.
Monaco is like the one that does the rounds on Twitter every now and again. And that wasn't a shocker. And listen, again, that might just be one game, but I don't think it was. I seem to remember patches of form. You know, again, that graphic goes around, doesn't it? Of all the games with no goals when we need to win the titles. But it wasn't even just that. It would just be, there'd be patches in seasons where I'd be like, and then there'd be patches where I'm like, wow, he's turned the corner. He's the goal scorer. But I think Jordan's spot on. I mean, you're coming straight after Van Persie. And what was the whole thing? We need to replace Van Persie. And actually, I think Wenger probably made it quite clear that we can't just replace Van Persie. Which is why they signed Podolski and Giroud. It was, let's split the 30 goals between them. But we were kind of, I don't know, we were desperate for someone to fill in those shoes. I mean, we'd been blessed with, you know, Henry became Adebayor, Eduardo, Van Persie. We kind of had a real string of serious striking talent, didn't we? And
Bentham.
And Bentham, who could forget, of course. And Giroud, listen, Giroud's had a fabulous career, scored a lot of goals. Clearly, a very good player. Clearly, but just wasn't a right fit for us, I suppose.
Go on, Jordan.
Turkish. I'm gonna ask you, Turkish. Do you think Olivier Giroud makes Arsenal's top 10 strikers of the Premier League era?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, he probably does, isn't he?
Top 10s are quite a wide margin when
Yeah.
you think about it.
You think?
Yeah.
All right. So
All
Ian Wright is in. Ian Wright's in there.
And Elka.
Ian Wright,
Did you
obviously
say-
Henri's in there, Bergkamp's in there.
Henri has 3. Van Persie 4.
Yeah.
Adebayor.
Bayor's got to be in there.
Anelka.
6 has got to be in there.
If it weren't for the injury, Eduardo, but he obviously did get injured.
Jesus is even in there.
Jesus has got to be in there.
Jesus.
Already?
Yeah,
You're on
already.
7 and we're still... People
All
might
right,
say
7.
Eduardo, people might say these. but not-
Aubameyang's got to be in there.
Yeah,
Aubameyang,
Hey, bloody hell. Lacazette make our top 10?
No.
well, he might do.
Lacazette's not in there.
Because I know Jesus is already better than Lacazette, man. That guy, man. That.
All right. Will Todd.
Yeah,
I'll
Carno.
give it to Will Tuss because he's an OG. Carnu.
That's 10.
Yeah, but
Jeremy
really,
Aliadier.
Baptista.
Who could forget the 4 at Anfield?
there's a few questionable names in there though. But
Shamak. Bentner.
nah, he's far from them. Maybe he's
Carlos
11th.
Vela.
Dabosuke. I'm just saying, I don't think it's as easy as it's not as conclusive.
He wouldn't be in the top 10 of Arsenal anyway. Like if you go even before the Premiership, he wouldn't be in the.
Not
Yeah,
Arsenal, no, but that's what I said.
No.
Premier League era.
Yeah,
Premier League era.
So, yeah,
I
I
think
guess
he might
Premier
get
League
into the
doesn't
top
make
10,
it.
just into the top 10.
James, what'd you say?
I guess maybe he doesn't make it then when you list off all those players.
No, he might. I'm just saying. I think it's.
Yeah, there's a debate for a couple there that you can make,
debate.
you know. But you know, Lee, was it Lee that made a good point? Listen, I'm with James.
I always
you know,
make good points, Turkish.
Yeah, quite often I gotta keep.
He's
up on
brought
my
it
notes.
full circle, guys. Well done. Well done.
Back to praise myself. Right, you know what I mean?
What a lovely podcast.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, Jesus definitely offers something without the goals too. But a point Lee made was
That
we
was
didn't
my
have
point.
a backup. Yeah, that was your point. But the point Lee made was
Yeah.
we didn't have a backup for Giroud, which highlighted his deficiencies even more. There's a lot of similarities to that now. And that's why I say with Jesus, as much as he's gonna go through these patches of not scoring, we have to look at the club. If goals up top do dry up and then they cause a problem in the league, we have to look at the club and ask them, hold on, we all know what Jesus is. Same way we all kind of knew what Giroud, well, less so when he came in, but we kind of quickly come to terms that Giroud's not really a main man, but he can be a rotation / backup option, and it'd be a great rotation / backup option. Similar with Jesus, not a rotation backup option because Jesus can fit into other areas in the pitch and still be as effective. But what happened with Giroud was the lack of depth in the position, the lack of goals coming in from behind in that position. And I think Jesus, as much as he's got the goals coming in from Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, and so on, the club have left it light again. So if there's anything that we can learn from that Giroud time, and hindsight's a beautiful thing, because when the rumors of Aubameyang were coming in, you know, I was the first to say I'd rather let go of Giroud than Lacazette. How wrong I was, because Giroud to back up Aubameyang would have been a lot better, in my opinion, than Lacazette trying to be forced in alongside Aubameyang and in turn rotating. And like I said, we saw our end. So hopefully we learn our lesson from that, because I do see similarities there. But we move.
Kevin Campbell, Theo Walcott.
Well, I wouldn't
Alan
class
Smith.
Walker as a striker, but
Yeah, Walker was always a wide player for me, but scored
honestly,
a lot of goals.
I know we mentioned names like Adebayor. That's a debate for me, Giroud, Adebayor.
In the comments below, let us know.
Wiltord was used. Wiltord was used how he should have been used. Impact, rotation. that's why we'll tend to favor Wiltord, especially during those glory days. But Giroud wasn't used how he was meant to be used, in my opinion.
That's my point. That's my
more
point
pressure on him, more critique because of that pressure. So it's a funny one, but yeah, you make a good point, Jordan. Maybe we do that in a show come the summer. Maybe we do top five midfielders, top 5 strikers.
Yeah,
whatever.
that's a good one. That's a good one we can do.
Yeah, we can. All right, people, let's move on because we are 40 minutes in. Where are we moving on to? Talked about England, talked about France, touched in on Argentina.
Well, just well done to Martinelli for his obviously World Cup debut, and actually I thought in the limited time he had, showed a little bit of what he's about, which is just running at players.
Yeah,
running
in a minute.
I'll tell you, he's going to be. He is going to be one hell of a player, isn't he? I think, you know what I mean. Do you know what I liked about him yesterday? Do you know when, like, we've probably all been there at times, and you go into a team or a club, and you feel that maybe you shouldn't be there. You know, like, I don't like, you know, there's some good players here and whatever, and be a little bit. Going in your shell a little bit. Do you know what I mean? He just comes out there and just thinks, this confidence of him, like, you know, no, I should be here. I'm gonna showcase my talent, and I love that attitude about players. You know, he's not overwhelmed by what's in front of him at a young age. You know, and there was a little bit of hoo-ha whether he should have actually gone or not, weren't there? Like, he just brushed that aside. I'm here. I'm going to enjoy it. And I just think that he's only young, he's only a kid, but I think he's got a mentality that I'm really like, this is going to take him far, you know. And we haven't had players with that sort of mentality for a very, very long while. He's got it in abundance, boys. And I'm telling you, like, you know, and just that little cameo yesterday tells me I like what I see.
He's hungry.
Yeah, there's something about him. There's something about him, like, you know.
Can I just say, because I run out of things to say now, but just I'm looking at a lot of this World Cup through the prism of Arsenal and Man City. So I'm also looking at how we're going to come back in Man City. And I was thinking about it just a minute ago. If we go through Man City's, well, I can't say team, but squad, how many of their players are actually featuring heavily in their right positions at this World Cup after round 1? I'm thinking Foden didn't start. Rodri played at centre-back for Spain.
Yeah.
Edison didn't start. I think Belgium are my big team to get knocked out in the group stage. I know they won, but I'm not having Belgium. So, you know, how well will De Bruyne do with Belgium? Who else they got in their team? Cancelo. All right, yeah, give you Cancelo. He started for Portugal.
Yeah, but he got roasted.
Yeah.
He didn't have a great game.
He got roasted.
He didn't have a great game. Haaland isn't even at the World Cup. Who else there? Grealish doesn't start for England. Stones, all right, had a good game for England. I guess the point I'm making is I'm looking at a lot of Arsenal, Man City's players. I can't work out if it's better if they're playing or not playing in terms of Arsenal's prospects for when they return. Is it better that players are playing and getting minutes, or is it not? Is it better that they don't play?
It's a great point. I'm not bothered. I would have been bothered if it was the summer. I'll be honest, like, I've been going, why ain't France playing, whatever? I hope they get beat now, like, you know what I mean? But I'm looking at France and thinking, like, well, if he ain't playing, so what? You know what I mean? If he is playing, great. I wasn't that disappointed that the 2 Brazilian boys weren't playing, but then, you know, they got on, and then I'm thinking, do I want them on? I'm, you know, I think if they're not playing, then so be it. If they are, it's good. The one thing I think it will be good, I think it'd be actually good for someone like Martinelli, just getting little bits of it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah.
You know, like Saliba, I think will come in at some stage because I think he's just too good not to do it. But if they come in, they come in. If they don't, they don't. You know, part of the World Cup is watching your players. Over the years, I've always liked it. You know, if we know, like I'd sort of follow France because we had a contingent of France players, Spain or whatever. But now I'm thinking to myself, I've still got this World Cup. I'm going to be really honest with you. I've got my Arsenal club head on as well, like, you know. So maybe that's why I'm not feeling it as much. I don't know, because, you know, I've still got me. You know, I still wear my Arsenal shirt. You know what I mean? I don't know.
It's the first tournament we've gone into regardless of whether it's some, because I agree with you on the summer point, the season's done and dusted. You can focus on internationals. You want to see the players back in action. But I think this is the first international tournament we've gone into where it's not necessarily a welcome break from club football, because a lot of the time over the years, Arsenal and the way we've been underperforming and top four being a trophy and all that, I looked at international football as a little bit of a break from those low standards. But now Arsenal are flying high. I'm looking at it as, I don't mind it. It's a welcome break, but I want to see Arsenal back in action quick, fast, and with a fully fit
Looking
squad.
forward to the friendlies already. I am.
It's fun, isn't it? Because Tomiyasu came on and I believe went off, whether it was cramp or injury or whatever. Obviously, we hope he's okay. But then there is a little part of me that's really happy that he played his part in such a massive win. So it's kind of a weird one, like from an Arsenal perspective. And I've actually checked in the news on how he is and whether he's fit or whatever. From an Arsenal perspective, you're thinking, oh no, I don't want him to be anywhere near that pitch. But actually for him, that's such a massive moment. And, I want him to be a key part of the Japan team for the World Cup for him. Because like we said many times in previous shows, I think we really care about these players, So it is a different, like, I do get what we're all saying about, getting a few minutes here and there. But at the same time, I kind of do find myself more happy for them when they are getting, the significant minutes and playing big parts, more than I'm thinking, oh no, this is bad for Arsenal.
And Tomiyasu, by the way, contributed to that win. That was 1-0 down when he came on. I thought he was superb for that 45 minutes. But 45 minutes is enough.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, on one hand, you see Saka starting the game, scoring 2 goals, getting the man of the match. And I love that. On the other hand, you see Saliba not start. And I love that because
it's a weird thing, isn't it? It's actually exactly how I feel. It is that weird, isn't it? Like, I mean,
yeah. Tomiyasu comes on at half time. I mean, with however long to go. I love that. Partey, yeah, I think he done okay.
I'm sorry, I'm going to upset Ghana fans. I want them out.
You want Partey straight back to.
I want him back as soon as possible. I thought he was superb yesterday, and I love the Ghana way that they're playing. And I'm going to say, part of me wants Ghana to go, but they're not going to win it, guys. So for me, like, get him back in that Dubai hotel and put some cotton wool around him, because he is key for Arsenal in this title running and whatever. I thought he was superb yesterday. I don't know if you agree with me, but just some of the little ones, they try to get close to him. Bruno tried to get him a cut. So every time he just popped it off and went round him. I absolutely loved the fella. He was superb yesterday.
Was that?
No, go on, Turkish.
Was that the best game of the tournament so far?
Yeah, I enjoyed that game yesterday. I've got to say, I think that you didn't know who was going to win. I've got to say, the bit at the end, where the goal, if he didn't slip, I would have been going mad. You know what I mean? I thought it was a good game. I thought it was a really good game. Never a penalty, by the way. I think it's because, I don't know why that was given, but, Jordan saying that one against England was a penalty and whatever that, but, that was never a penalty. He'd be fuming if that was against Arsenal, but, Ronaldo turned up, didn't he? And I thought he played well, Ronaldo. I've got to say that,
he did.
I'll tell you what, Portugal got some players, I didn't realise, when you talk about Uruguay, by the way.
I said from before, I think Brazil aside, maybe France, they've got the best 11 in the competition. I think they've got a better 11 than England. I'm taking their 11 before England's. Got a really good team.
They've got Diaz at the back, you know what I mean? Diaz and Cancelo as in a part of that. Their midfield is, Carvalho don't get in it. You know what I mean? Like, he comes on like last 20 minutes, and I think they've got some bloody good players, Portugal.
Even left back, they got Guerrero, but Mendes on the bench. They're in midfield. They got Neves. They got Nunes.
They've got some players, I tell you.
It's crazy. Jota didn't make the tournament. I think if Jota came, that would have been massive for them.
Vieira didn't even make the squad.
Yeah.
Apparently, he who shall not be named played very well as well.
Yes, he did play very well. I thought he had a very, very good game.
Yeah, he was good.
Very, very good game.
And I did put it in the WhatsApp group, obviously for for reasons we can't play on the show. But I did ask the very loyal Fourever Arsenal podcast fan base if they could edit up Jordan facing Walter White.
Oh, that's fantastic. That was fantastic.
And
Can we
I just
play
want to
it?
shout him out. Mark McKenna, he sent it through to me on Instagram. How he found those clips of Jordan like that. And I wish we could show you guys.
He's done well.
I think what I'll do
We've got to
is
try
I'll
and
give
find
it
it.
to
We've got to see
social
if we
team.
can play that.
I'll give it to social team maybe.
Yeah.
Now, what you got to do is upload it on YouTube and have it do the checks. If it does the checks and it's fine, then we can play it next show. If it does the checks and say issue with copyright, then we'll have to say thank you, but good night.
Yeah.
Well done, Mark.
It's worth playing. It's worth coming. Let's do that, James. See if we can get that on. Right,
We'll try and get it out.
It's very good. It's very good.
Well done, Mark. Thank you for sending that through.
Yeah.
People, thank you. It's been 50 minutes, so we are going to call it a day.
Can I just big up quickly another fan of the program that I bumped into at the Brunswick Centre in.
Before you big him up, who's his favourite?
Well, I'm assuming it was me because he didn't mention any of your name.
Right. Anyway, great show, boys.
Good one,
right.
See you later.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
Adios.
For once, they didn't say, "Oh, I love Turkish. I love Turkish." He didn't say anyone's name. He just kind of said, "I see the show. I love your." These guys. For those listening on the audio, I think we should do that. Lee and Jay. Oh, three of you. Oh, is that how it is? Is that how it is? For those listening on the audio feed, James, Lee, and Turkish have been childish and have all tapped out their cameras in protest of not being mentioned by a fan. Pathetic. But you know what? I'm still here in vision and in sound as well. Even though many of you don't want that. so anyway, thank you to the young man and his mother who got a photo and said they love the show. I forgot your name, my friend, but big up yourself.
I
Thank
forgot
you.
his name.
Got your name as well.
What a shout out.
What a shambles! What? He's wanged on all about that. He's forgot his name.
You know who you are. You know who you are.
You know who you are.
Oh, you can't write this, can you? You can't write it.
Another one that won't be named on Jordan's list, but
Yeah,
for other
exactly.
reasons.
We won't be known because he's forgot it. It's a joke. What's a joke?
We're gonna
Love
wrap
the
it
young
up
man
here.
and his mum. Anyway,
No, but
hang on. Comment of the week. There were some great comments this week. Lee, what have you got? You got to have some comments of the week this week. There were some brilliant
do you know
comments.
what? I forgot to do comment of the week.
Oh, Lee, there were some great ones.
Well, because we didn't do it last time. I thought because we was doing World Cup, like, you know what I mean? So
no, every week.
I'll do two next week. I'll do two next week.
All
like,
right,
you know?
all right.
We'll double up. We'll take one from the last show as well. So
We'll double up. We'll double up, like, you know. We'll double up.
To be honest with you, I think moving forward, we'll have maybe we all pick one out and make it a bit fairer.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Putting pressure on me all the time, like, yeah, like.
Ooh, poor Lee.
It's a bit hard. There was 931 comments the other day, like, you know what I mean? Like, I got on the train, got to the studio, and I thought, so I got back on the other train because I had to read them all. Like, it's a joke, you know what I mean?
Went the long way round.
Yeah, took a 4-hour journey, went to Manchester and back, like, you know what I mean? Like,
People, big up Jordan, big up James, big up Lee as always, but most importantly, big up you guys. Keep on watching the show, keep on supporting, hit the like button, get the video up to 1,000 nice and early, people. And as always, leave your comments in the comment section. We've missed comment of the day a couple of times now, but we are going to catch up next time, as Lee said, and we'll all be picking one out. So make sure you guys leave your comments as always, hit the like button as always, make sure you're subscribed, make sure the notification bell is on, and make sure you're back here Monday, Tuesday, where the next pod will be after the second round of fixtures. Let's see how it's looking. Love for the love, people. We are out. Peace.